Hello and welcome back to the Olden Shot. Again, we're going to be looking at two film cameras from the end of the film camera era really. We've got a manual focus, which is the Minolta X300X, and an automatic focus, which is the Canon EOS 3000N. I've cheated this time because I've already taken the photographs and I already know what results I've had. Just come back from a trip to the Lake District where we were staying at the caravan park in Bowness and Windermere. Lovely place and beautiful colours at this time of year, but of course I've done it in black and white because I haven't learned how to do colour processing yet. That will come. Both cameras have got third-party zoom lenses on. The Minolta, it's a Tamron 28 to 70mm tele macro zoom lens, and on the Canon it's a Sigma 30 to 80 autofocus zoom lens. The cameras, being towards the end of the film era, are very well featured compared to some of the earlier SLR cameras, say from the 70s or even earlier the 60s. Let's look at the Minolta first. It's aperture priority automatic camera, which also has manual exposure. It's aimed at the consumer end of the market, and as such it's quite lightly featured, although the auto exposure and the manual exposure would have been something to be lauded late 60s, early 70s. The Canon, like most of the autofocus SLRs that came out in 80s, 90s, it's got fully automatic, it's got program, it's got aperture priority, it's got shutter priority, and also manual exposure. On top of that, it's got scene modes where you can set it for, say, portrait, where the camera will choose the settings, landscape, night photography, close-up or macro. So extremely well featured, and features that could only have been dreamt of earlier. They're both plastic cameras, but I would say they're robust. I mean, we're not taking them into war zones, we're not climbing mountains with them, and both of them came to me as part of bundles, and I have to say there's no damage on them from taking them about, and I'm really pleased with the photographs I got from them, which we'll have a look at now. So there we have it. That's the photos from both the cameras. Both cameras really easy to use, a pleasure to use really. The Minolta is feels a bit heavier for its size than the Canon, but if you're walking around with one camera on, it's not too heavy. Of course, I was walking around with two cameras hanging around my neck, and I'm probably going to end up with a permanent stoop. The lenses are great. The Tamron, I used it because the previous standard lens that I was using on the camera needs a bit of maintenance. It's got very very tight aperture for adjustment, and I probably need to try take that apart and lube in the blades. This really surprised me. I'm not a great fan of zoom lenses, but I've got absolutely no complaints with the results from either of these lenses. The Sigma feels a bit more plasticky than the Tamron, because it's later. The Tamron comes from, I think, 80s and this is 90s. It has great optics. It's clear optics. The performance from the optics was great, but it has a fault which seems to be quite common with Sigma lenses of that era, in that the outer plastic in places feels a bit tacky. I've seen this on a number of Sigma lenses, and I've seen it mentioned on forums and other photographic sites. But I've got to say the optics are great. I used Ilford FP4 film. I used it at box speed, which is ISO 125, and what can I say, that is a great film. Got nice punchy negatives, plenty contrast, plenty sharpness. YouTube, I'm sure, cuts a bit of the quality when you upload them, so that's a shame, but really Ilford FP4 is a very, very good film. There were some dull days, and with it being quite a slow film, the cameras were using apertures that I don't often use. My forte, or my preferred type of photography, is landscape, and tend to go for small aperture, good depth of field. So quite a bit of the time I was using a wider aperture than I would normally use for landscapes, but great film. The scanner I'm using, I just bought it recently, Plustech Optic Film 8100, and it's a great scanner. What can I say? It does everything I want it to do. I've used flatbed scanners with attachments for doing negatives, but the Plustech is so much easier to use, less faffing about, and it's also quite a lot quicker, I think. So there we go, that's this episode wrapping up now. I'm happy you watched it. If you haven't already done so, please like and please subscribe. You'll see more videos, more interesting cameras. Nothing too fancy, because I don't really go out and buy fancy cameras. I like to see what I can get with cameras that cost me next to nothing. So please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for watching.